go big, go home is how I like to play. You know, if at the time before I started, people were like, okay, you're going to do this new job and you're going to have to miss, this is going to sound so silly, but miss the birthday parties and you're going to miss the tennis lessons and you're going to not be able to pick up your kids every day. I mean, I would have said no, there's no way, but I love to push myself. And so that's the reason I work as many hours as I can.
Today, we have Claire Stallings Ramirez.
Claire Ramirez, let's go.
Claire Ramirez,
Yeah.
all right. Oh, I mean, I didn't know how many names.
Yeah. You know, I first came back, I'd been gone for a while. And so I was like, no one's going to know me as Claire Ramirez. I've been gone for 10 years.
Gotcha.
And been here. My family's been here for a long time.
Yeah. Stallings.
Stallings.
Heard that name. So Claire is the owner and editor of the Scout Guide West Texas edition.
Yes.
This is a 100% woman-owned and operated business. It is a franchise that you own, right? The West Texas side. Can you just tell everybody who might not know what the Scout Guide is?
Yeah, so the Scout Guide is all about creating a local community. So teaching the people that live in your area about the wonderful businesses that you have right around the corner. You know, one thing that I think people like to think is that we don't have like those big name stores. However, we have amazing retailers that carry those exact same brands that we can support right here. So instead of buying everything on Amazon, I know that will never not be a source for us, but there are great businesses that we can support here and buy locally and give back to our economy.
Essentially, it's a publication, right? It's a physical book.
Yeah.
That's the meat of it.
Yes.
And all of the businesses inside are local businesses in that area. And so there's over 80 cities?
Yeah, so we're in 80 cities all across the country. So we're really heavy in Texas and the South, but we're also in the Hamptons and Denver and starting to branch out into California and Jackson Hole, all the fun places. Whenever you travel, that was like how I found out about Scout Guide. Is when I would go to a bachelorette or something like that, I would search to see if they had a Scout Guide. And then that's how I kind of planned my trip. So like where to eat, what to do. So it can be used as a travel guide. But then cities like ours and the surrounding areas, it's more of a local guide.
So the Scout Guide was started by Christy Ford and Susie Matheson in Virginia.
Yes.
And so I saw that they, especially Christy, I thought she had a design background, a photography background, right? So
yes.
So when the first time I saw the Scout Guide, beautiful publication, beautiful imagery, things like that. And so eventually they just spread out across the nation. So essentially it's a franchise, right? Can you kind of explain how to get into that?
So a few years ago, I kind of hit a why on where to go. So I had sold a business that I was part of, I guess in 2019, 2020, something like that. And was kind of like, what do I do next? Well, one of my friends who lives in Houston was like, Claire, you should bring the Scout Guide to West Texas. No one loves that area more than you. So you should look into it. So I started to kind of dabble a little bit, jumped on a few of their calls. Next thing I know, I'm having interviews and going through what that looks like.
Really, the Scout Guide is about, working with local business owners, small business owners, promoting them, similar to what we do.
Yeah.
But in the way of putting them through the publication, it's yearly publication.
Yes, so it's a membership is how we like to phrase it. So you become a member of the guide, and with that membership, you get to be in our physical publication. But then I'm your cheerleader online, on our website, through our newsletters, through events. So every year I have 3 or 4 events where my members can set up. People can come, and we kind of just make a whole party out of it. We have food, drinks, dancing. But then you can also go find out about the new physical therapist that we have here in Midland, or maybe even the dentist, and then shop somewhere with one of the great retailers we have.
Get your ears pierced.
Get your ears pierced.
That's
You're
always
right.
very popular at those events.
Yes, we'll have ear piercing at the launch party.
Oh, great.
Nice.
I'll get my ears pierced.
Yeah.
Again?
So in addition to the publication, there's an online source through email, and then there's obviously social media.
Correct.
And then we went to your last year, your volume 1 party.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, okay. Claire certainly has a event planning background, because it was like a gala event.
I know. Everyone in the guide, like the other editors, were like, "We can't wait for your wedding, Claire." Like, because they were just like, So most Scout guides do it differently, and that's what I love about the Scout guide. Christy and Susie, they really let you run your territory how you want to run it, and I wanted it to be a source of entertainment for our community. And we don't have a lot of things like that. And so my party, I think last year had almost 1,400 people. And it was a really fun night. Yeah.
It was great. It was fantastic. It was like a who's who of West Texas in there. Let's talk about your background. Like, what is your background in?
So I went to Baylor, and while I was at Baylor, I got really politically involved. So I started working for the congressman there in Waco and helping with events, helping with fundraising and things like that. Once he was elected, I was hired on as a caseworker. And so that was a great way for me to learn how to kind of become more detailed oriented and keeping records and things like that, and a skill I didn't naturally have. But once I graduated from Baylor, I left and went to Houston and started working for Kendra Scott and doing event planning there, working in their stores. I was part of their Rice Village location, which was one of the first locations opened up outside of Austin, and learned a ton from that organization and Kendra coming in and doing different types of trainings with us. She really motivated me during that time of like, look at this bad woman who's doing all these big things all on her own because she believed in herself. So that kind of motivated me from that point. I started doing corporate event planning. I always had a side gig. I've always had something that like, yes, I go to my job from 8 to 5, but 5 to 9, I'm making Snapchat filters or creating T-shirts, or always had something. And it's just in my blood to, I think, work like that and be an entrepreneur. So
be creative.
I love being creative. Yeah. And so that part was a fun and a good time of life. So I did that for almost 10 years in Houston. So working in some type of event planning, marketing departments, and then coming and doing my own thing when I got home. And then I got married, and my husband somehow got tricked into moving to Midland. It was really one of those things. Yeah, you know that story. I literally just said, I think we should move to Midland. And he said, great. I kept on telling people I wanted to move because there's no place like Midland to raise a family, to start a business. So I got back to Midland and worked for Mayor Payton for a while, did his social media, worked for several other politicians, actually. Mayor Blanc, worked for her, worked for Katie Joyner from the school board, did that road for a while, and then along at the same time I was working for a shopping show. We would do shopping shows every few months here in Midland, and we were bringing in brands from all over the country that we were finding on Instagram.
When you say show, you mean like a
pop-up market kind of thing?
Yeah, it was
like
a pop-up market.
Like a market.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So I did that for a while, and then ended up selling my portion of that business off. And that's when I started venturing into Scout Guide.
So you've got marketing background, you've got the event planning background, you've got social media background, and you've got the politics side. Like, how does the politics side help bring in memberships? Does it help at all?
I mean, it does. I've met people and business owners that I maybe wouldn't have met. I worked for August Pfluger on his first campaign. And a lot of those evenings are spent, socializing and educating people about Pfluger in business owners' homes. And so I got to make relationships during that time. And so I was a little less intimidated when I decided to start the Scout Guide to go approach these people. Now, don't get me wrong. I think I come off as super outgoing, but I give myself like the biggest pep talk before any and every sales talk. I don't know. I'm my biggest critic and my biggest fan all at the same time. But yeah, so when I go in to talk to someone like John Garber, I'm like freaking out, inside. But
same.
Yeah. I mean, how could you not be? But it's been a great opportunity. I've gotten to meet so many people too, that I would have never met if I hadn't done the Scout Guide or done politics, and that maybe our lives wouldn't cross. But now they're some of my favorite people.
it seems like you get a lot of support, right? Because there's obviously other women across the country who are running their territories. Do you sort of, is there a lot of communication?
Okay. Yeah, so like my phone is constantly blowing up with group messages with other editors. So it's the greatest thing is we're not each other's competitors. You know, none of our clients are their clients. Typically, there's a few overlap. Like some of my members are in the Houston and Dallas guide because, like, for example, Milagro is a local girl here in Midland who has built a rug empire, and so she sells all across the country, so it makes sense for her to be in multiple guides, so that's awesome. But all in all, these girls are kind of in a way my colleagues and cheerleaders at the same time. So we'll text and be like, hey, I did this today and it was awesome, my members loved it, they felt like they got a lot of exposure. Or they can say, hey, I have a member really upset with me, I don't know what to do, you know, I was trying my hardest, what would y'all do? And you know, we are in there writing up emails for each other and things like that.
Seems like a good network of support.
Oh, yeah. These girls have become some of my best friends. We talk all the time. We went on a trip together this past year, all from all different markets from all over the country.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
So no franchise to own is like, it's not free to start a territory by any means, right?
No, it's not free. You have to go through an intensive interview process. I think it took like 3 or 4 months before I actually signed a contract. And you obviously, Scout Guide has to approve for you to get the territory. So you do a lot of personality tests and you have to do a sales pitch and a business plan, and because they want you to succeed, you know.
And to know that like you're going to give it your all.
Yeah, I think there's girls that have probably gotten into it that like it's hard. You know, it's a hard job. I work way more hours than I ever thought. You know, before I started the Scout Guide, I kind of had in my head like, oh, I'm going to be able to go to lunch and play tennis and then do a little work at the side. No. That does not happen. So I'm working 40 to 50 hours, you know, on a regular week. And then when it's photo shoot season, I leave my house at 6 a.m. and I don't come home till it's dark. Yeah. And those days are hard. You know, I have 2 little kids, 3 and 5, and a husband. Yeah. But thankfully, I also have their support who know that this is a season, and I am so happy. Like, it's a great place to be.
When does it really start to ramp up? Like, when is it like crazy for you?
So here's kind of how my season goes. So like September, my guide comes out. October, I kind of am just kind of making sure guides are everywhere. So I go around and I'm delivering guides all day, every day. That's usually when it's heavily picked over too. So like I'm refilling daily. And that lasts until like early November. That's when I also have my Christmas party is in November, which is a Christmas market at the Museum of the Southwest. So I start working on that event, going on at that. And at that point, I start touching in with my members and start letting them know, like, okay, guys, time for volume 3. Let's get going, you know, and doing that thing. Thankfully, the way that my schedule works, because one thing people don't realize about the Scout Guide, we are all on different schedules. Oh. So we are all putting out a guide. There's a guide coming out for sure every week. One of the reasons for that is we only have one printer. So
for all the guides?
For all the guides. So my members will get hounded by me when it starts to get to my deadlines. Because if we don't hit my deadlines, we get pushed to the back of the line for the printer, because it's not fair that I mess up the editor behind me. And so it gets really spicy around like May time when I'm having to get things approved and things. I'm like constantly emailing and texting because we have to hit those deadlines. There's no option.
But that does make sense because all the guides from a branding perspective look similar.
Yes, so our photographers have to be approved by Scout Guide. So when I get in a photographer, I have to submit their portfolio, and Christy, who has the background in photography, she approves every single photographer. So they also do all the in-house design. So I can give recommendations on what I want, and I work with a designer out of Charlottesville, but they do all design work. And even if like a member, like let's say Lucchese's is a big brand. They do a great job at branding. They send me their ad. We recreate the ad similar to what they have, but we just want it to all look the same.
It wants to be cohesive to the Scout Guide brand as a whole.
Yes.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, you can't just go out there with your iPhone and just start shooting.
No, but I do have a secret.
Okay.
My guide last year, one of my favorite spreads was taken with an iPhone.
Really?
Which is really not allowed, but they allowed it because it's such a good photo.
Okay, we won't tell.
Yeah, okay. Well, no, I want to show y'all. I want y'all to share the photo because it's so good. It's in the far west side, and it's Marfa Spirit, and it's a dark, gloomy saloon. And but like there's a lit up liquor sign, and everyone, I mean, the bar's really full, and it was just taken by an employee, and the photo was just so good we couldn't recreate it.
Yeah.
That Scout Guide allowed me to use it.
That's in the last year's book?
Last year's guide.
Oh, we have that over there.
We have one. All right, we'll take a look.
So thankfully, the way my guide works is I do kind of have the holidays off. So from November, like after I have my Christmas party, I don't bother the members. They're busy. It's Christmas time. A lot of mine are retail. They have a lot going on. So I kind of have Christmas off, and then I hit hard January. So from January to May, it is nonstop. I'm going into members. I'm meeting with members. I'm meeting with new potential members, but then also sprinkling in photo shoot. So like on a very busy Scout Guide day, I start at 6 a.m. going to a photo shoot. And then once that photo shoot's over, usually it just depends on the shoot. They can last an hour, but they can last 3 hours. It just kind of depends.
Sure.
So once we get done with that shoot, I run pretty much straight to a meeting. So I'll be at Far West. A lot of people are like, Claire, do you office out of Far West? I kind of do.
It's a great place to
It's
office.
a great place to meet people. And it's like a rotating door some days where I just have that seat with people coming in and out. And a lot of times it's me catching up with members, finding out how they're doing, how I can support them better.
Yeah.
What is the big news that they may need me to share, or how can I help them in an area that feels weak in their business? And then it's meeting with potential members and all the things. And then I'm going to a photo shoot. So typically during photo shoot season, I'm going to about 3 to 4, sometimes even 6 a day.
So when you say a member has something new to promote, because again, right, so it's like an annual guide publication, a book.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's more or less like sort of a spread, you know, very beautiful photos about their business, you know, who they are, things like that. So when you're talking about like new things throughout the year that they want to promote, that's through like email and social media?
Yeah. So we have like different forms set up. So like for my realtors, I have a form that they set up. Anytime that they have a new house that hits the market, they can fill out that form, and that automatically goes to my website. And then anytime, we also have an event form. If I have a member that has a big event coming on, they can do that. But even this morning on the way here, I got an email from one of my members who was recently mentioned in MRT and asked if I could just reshare that. So there's all different ways that I'm contacted and requested new information, but I try to do forms just to streamline it a little bit.
100%.
But I get text all day, and I love that. I want my members to feel like they can text me, but they do.
Yeah, I try to not do business out of DMs, which is hard to do.
Yeah, it is.
I try to go like, hey, you want to go fill out this form?
Yeah.
So it's in our database.
Yes.
So we have record of it and we can respond accordingly. Yeah, but I mean, these days, you know, like text and DMs, people are like,
well, like with you and I was looking through 3 different platforms. I was like, how did we communicate? Because I was doing the same thing. I think I talked to you 3 different ways.
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah, there was a ton. And then you get lost, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know they said something, but where
was it? Yeah.
The photo shoots are a lot of work, but I have to say that whenever like you guys were sharing the like behind the scenes, like with Tabitha's photo shoot, and I think probably Christina Lee, like it just looked like fun too.
It is fun.
Like
it's
everybody's
super fun.
like laughing and enjoying themselves. So that's really
so
cool.
like how the process works is I set up a meeting. We call it the creative meeting, and myself and Audrey meet with the client before we do the photo shoot, and we come up with a game plan. So I create kind of a vision board of what I'm envisioning for their spread that year. So I spent a lot of time looking through magazines, Pinterest, Instagram, trying to get some type of influence on which direction we want to go. And so once we pick the direction we want to go, the photo shoots typically are fun because we kind of have a game plan set. We know what we're doing when we step into the meeting. And I bring champagne, we play music.
Nice.
We try to make it as fun and a VIP experience that they've never had before.
Yeah.
And so it is a lot of fun, and a lot of my photographer, Audrey, always says, like, pretend you're laughing, like, ha, 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 ha. So we are always saying ha, ha, ha. And it's amazing the beautiful shots we've gotten from people chanting ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
There's the tips and tricks behind the scenes. I was a photographer for many years, and it's hard, especially people
I'm
who
hiring another one if you're looking.
No. I can give you some recommendations. Is there sort of like exclusivity? Like what types of businesses are in there? And then can you have more than one type of business?
So the editor, that's all up to the editor. I can decide how many I want of one business versus another. I think that there's reason for why I choose which ones can have more than others. For example, a boutique. Everyone has different styles. I mean, I know I have a different style than my best friend. My best friend goes and shops at X and I shop at Y, you know. And so I think it's important to show not only different styles, but different price points. Not everyone has the same, budget on clothing that all across the board. So I think it's great to show different options that we have here in our city. But maybe something more specialized like a med spa where they offer kind of the same thing.
Right.
I see that might be kind of repetitive. So studies have shown if you have 16 pages between the same business, people don't think of it as like a repetitive scene. So I always, if I do have two businesses that are the same, we'll have 16 pages between that one and the next. So
there is no exclusivity per se. It's not like you have to be the only realtor or the only lawyer or whatever it may be. That's good, right? Because then it becomes very competitive probably, right?
Well, I want my guide to be inclusive. I don't want anyone to ever think of this book as like, oh, I can't be in there. She's never going to pick me. Like, that's not what this guide's about. This guide's about celebrating what we have in West Texas and supporting these hard business owners that are right here in our backyard. You know, when oil was up high, I thought, oh, I bet our members are doing great. And I was meeting with a member that day, and I was like, oil's great. How are you doing? And she's like, actually, this is the worst time for me. Because when oil goes up, people jump on their planes. They go to their second home. They don't care what their yard looks like in Midland. They care what their house looks like in Horseshoe Bay. Yeah. You know, it's not cool to buy their clothes in Midland. You got to go to New York or Dallas to buy your clothes. Or the same for Odessa, you know. I think it's important that we realize that and make conscious efforts instead of not going online and buying something off Saks when Nines has that exact same brand in their store.
What is the process like? Do you seek out the members, or like do the members apply to be in the books?
So the first year, it was me hitting the ground. So I was going in, and a lot of people didn't know what the Scout Guide was. So I had to explain to them the process of it. But then I would show them, oh, here's a Scout Guide, Dallas. And they'd say, well, we're not Dallas. What does West Texas look like? Yeah. So I had a lot of people that I felt like really trusted me and trusted my work ethic and trusted my vision. So those founding members, is what we call them, are very dear, that they trusted that I knew what I was doing and was going to represent them well. And so they have a special place in my heart. This past year, though, I mean, as soon as Volume 1 hit, I had people knocking on my door that told me no last year and that are begging to be in this year.
They're like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, they get it. You know, once you see a book and you get it in your hands, you get it.
They're gorgeous.
And they're free. And I think that's what people don't realize is like, they're well-made, beautiful books that you keep forever. So instead of paying for a ad in a guide or in a book that's thrown away or a magazine that's tossed, you look through it once and then you're done. With the guide, people put them on their coffee table in their guest rooms. It's fun to go to my friend's house or go into a waiting room and see the guide sitting there that's definitely been flipped through 100 times.
Yeah, it definitely reminds me of a coffee table book. That's how I would describe it.
Yeah.
That just happens to have spreads with locally owned businesses in their area.
Photographed very well.
Yeah. Aren't they great? I have a very talented photographer.
Getting into this franchise, like now that you're essentially, is this your going into your third year doing this, right? Because the first year was just getting into Volume 1, right? Mm-hmm. So what were your expectations versus what realistically, what is it like?
I mean, it was more work than I thought.
Okay.
But it was go big, go home is how I like to play. You know, if at the time before I started, people were like, okay, you're going to do this new job and you're going to have to miss, this is going to sound so silly, but miss the birthday parties and you're going to miss the tennis lessons and you're going to not be able to pick up your kids every day. I mean, I would have said no, there's no way, but I love to push myself. And so that's the reason I work as many hours as I do.
Especially like with YouTube and things like that. Like every video you see is like, hey, do the least amount of work and make $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make $1 million a week, literally doing nothing. And then you like, I don't even watch those. I don't even get sucked into watching those videos because I'm like,
I don't want to be that person.
Also, it's not realistic at all.
It is not realistic. But, you know, like my mom always jokes. So there are times I'm like, I wish I didn't work. I wish I didn't work. And I wish I didn't have to work. But I want my kids to have a certain life. And for them to live that life that me and my husband have chosen to work.
Yeah.
And, but my mom always reminds me, like, Claire, it doesn't matter if you won the lottery tomorrow, you would be back on that pavement the next day.
Because you'd be bored.
Oh, out of my mind.
Yeah.
And so.
Note to self, though, let's make it so we can get a plane and multiple homes.
I know.
In different places. We'll still shop here. Don't get me wrong. But that sounds
Please
pretty
do.
cool
That's
too.
all I want y'all to know. When I leave here, that's all I want is people to make those conscious decisions. Instead of going to HEB to get your prescription, go to the small pharmacist around the corner.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we're the same way, right? That's why we started Best of Midland.
Yeah.
You know, but we started in the aspect of like, we just wanted business, especially small businesses, to have visibility in the digital space.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of like being able to be found on Google. I know people are like, Google this, Google that, but like, people use Google and people use Google Maps all the time. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a website or just don't even have a business profile whatsoever, like you're going to live and die by that Instagram account. Yes. But also you're going to live and die by those algorithms that everybody gripes about all the time, right? So, you know, it's good to we just like, hey, it's free just to have a profile. That's it. You know what I mean? So,
because if you type in women's boutique on Google, you're going to get the Saks Fifth Avenues.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to get the big box.
Dillard's.
You're going to get the big brands, especially the ones that have the marketing dollars to put themselves on top. You know what I mean?
Well, I love what y'all are doing too. You're also, I think, for someone who a lot of people that I work with a lot are Midlanders, and they've been Midlanders forever, and they constantly will say, "I didn't even know we had that business until I looked through the guide." Well, I have felt that when I've looked through your things. I'm like, I didn't even know that business existed here. And I've actually found members through you guys, and I really appreciate you promoting, supporting local. And I mean, as we both know, starting a new business is so stinking hard, and I want to support that.
I actually approached Claire, barely knew you. I knew of you, but I approached you when we were about to launch Best of Midland just because I knew that your scout guide, I knew you were working on it, and I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew it was in the same realm of it's something to promote local business. And my thought process was, the more the merrier.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The more businesses, the more people as a whole that are, you know, promoting, supporting local, you know, not just, you know, I get it. People shop on Amazon, that's fine. But at the same time, it's like, especially in the restaurant world, right? It's like, try a small small restaurant before you just like blindly go to, I use the term Applebee's. Applebee's is eventually going to sue us, but like...
There's not one here, so you're safe.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Like that's, and the fact that I don't know that there's one here means that like I don't go there.
Yeah.
Right? I'll try to choose something before, you know, because small business owners are your friends. They're your neighbors.
Yes.
Right? Your kids go to school with their kids, right? Like the manager of Applebee's doesn't care if you had a bad experience because it's not going to affect them at all.
Yeah, his salary is his salary.
Right.
Yeah.
In the age now of social media and reels and TikToks and video and things like that, like what are some of the, I'd say, conversations you have with potential prospective members who are like, you know, have questions about being in a book, annual book versus, you know, from a marketing dollars perspective, like how do you approach that?
Well, the book is our golden child and our nice and shiny and pretty item, and it does get people a lot of business, but that's not all we are. You know, we understand that, and so that's, I think, why Christy and Susie have been so successful is that they've given us the support of the social media and the newsletters. And one thing that they do that I love, and it has benefited my members significantly, is every week they send an email to all the editors across the country, and they'll say, all right, hats are in this fall. if you have a member who sells hats, nominate them, and we will put them on our email that goes out to 1 million people and say, hey, hats are in this fall. Here's 20 businesses across the country you can support and buy from a local small business. I love doing that. And I get members featured on it all the time. And I love when I get the call after they're featured that says, we sold out of the backpack. We sold out of the dress. Or we got, 100 new followers today. And it's just from that one newsletter. So those kind of things make Scout Guide different from other types of marketing plans here locally, especially. Is that you can get national exposure.
Right.
Like Decor Drop is a new client of mine this last year, and they are doing boxes with everything you need for a birthday party. So you say, I'm having a tennis-themed birthday. And it's not like the cheap little plates that they found, quickly on Party City. Yeah. They're going to even businesses in Europe and finding like these really pretty paper plates that are shaped like rackets. They're making it like boutique style birthday. And but the reason they joined the Scout Guide wasn't only to focus locally, but really was the national exposure that they're going to gain.
Is there businesses that tend to do better?
Well, I think it just is how you view it.
Okay.
You're going to get a lot of exposure if you're retail, not only because of the guide and the newsletters, but I also have my markets. However, any member can set up at my market. So physical therapy, I mentioned, is doing like massages, at the launch party. So there's a way to
note that.
Yeah, isn't that cool? She messaged me last night. And then Basin Dentistry was like, well, we want to sponsor like a photo booth so everyone can flaunt their smiles. So there's a way to get in front of a huge crowd of potential clients from being in the guide, even if you don't sell a physical item.
Okay. I mean, I might have a cavity. Maybe they can fill it.
Yeah, right there in the photo
Who
booth.
knows, right? Like that's some good content.
Yeah.
The Scout Guide as a whole, and again, in their sort of media kit was like, demographic wise, it seemed like it was like about 70% female to male.
Yeah.
Does that sort of hold true for you?
Not for me. I focused a little differently when I started my guide. I understand how West Texas works. I'll probably never have a pink or purple book because I want every woman and man to feel comfortable enough to sit in a waiting room and flip through the guide. Or pick it up and take it or put it in their own waiting room. So I'll probably always do a more gender neutral color for that reason. I also have more male businesses in my guide than most guides probably have.
Interesting.
I thought it was really interesting this past year. I had multiple businesses reach out, like oil companies, that were like, okay, well, we don't want to be in the ad, or we don't need, to put a page in Scout Guide, but we love what you're doing, and we want to sponsor pages for businesses who may not be able to afford it, but they want to be part of the guide.
Oh, that's very cool.
I like that.
That's a great idea.
So each guide in all the different cities, you just pick your own colors?
Yeah, so every year we are in charge of picking and revealing the new color. So this year will be blue and white. And the reason I did volume 1 volume 2 is blue, white, and red is the influence for this guide was the Texas flag and just being proud of where we're from. And so you'll see a theme of that through the guide and then also at the launch party.
Nice.
Well, let's talk. I mean, let's get into that. Let's talk about volume 2. Let's talk about the launch party.
So volume 2, I'm excited. So the guide is huge, guy. I mean, a phone book is a good description of it.
Okay.
But it's going to be awesome. Like, people are going to go through and you're going to learn about so many businesses you didn't know even existed here. And I think, or one of the things that I'm including this year are bookmarks, because you're probably going to need a bookmark while you're going through it.
Wow.
It's the biggest guide that's ever been published with Scout Guide, but I have a huge territory.
Yeah.
I'm Midland, Odessa, and then all the way down to Marfa. So there's a lot of businesses, and that's what's so wonderful about West Texas is Midland specifically, we don't have a lot of chains. They think that they can't be supported here. Mm-hmm. There's not the workers that they need. So in return, that has forced a lot of entrepreneurs to open up their own stores. And so we have a lot of business owners in our area, probably more than an average city our size.
Interesting.
When's the party?
September 14th, Thursday, 7 to 10. It's at Ally Village, so where Cork and Pig is at. I think almost the entire shopping center is in the guide. So we'll shut it down that night, and it's going to be really fun. We have a guy going around that's going to do oyster shucking right there for you. So he'll be walking around shucking oysters, giving you maybe a shot of tequila as you do both. But we're going to have that. We're going to have tons of shopping. Each of the stores will be open within the party, and they'll be having like a mini party inside.
Maybe you can do a little cold plunge at Simply.
Cold plunge. She's going to do shots.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yes.
I go to bed quite early.
Yes.
But if I can pop into Simply, get my energy shot.
Yes. They'll be doing energy shots right there. I mean, they're all kind of thinking of different things. Cork and Pick is hosting Party on the Patio, so they're doing a huge party on their patio, and they're going to have mini cocktails and mini like hors d'oeuvres, and then they're going to maybe announce something real exciting.
Yeah, if you didn't go to the Volume 1 launch, you've really missed out. So I can only imagine we were lucky enough to go. And
you're going to be at this one, I hope.
I mean,
come on, please.
We'll be there. Are you sold out of tickets, though?
Well, accidentally, I had set a very high number of like how many tickets to sell on Eventbrite. And then I started getting all these emails and texts while I was in meetings. And I was like, I'll look at that later. And then I looked at one. It was like, sold out. I'm your best friend. And I was like, oh, weird. And went on. And I guess in like 24 hours, I sold a heck of a lot of tickets.
Oh, okay. T-Swift. Like,
yeah.
It dropped. I accidentally sold out of tickets.
I actually sold out. No,
now we have to do it again.
Record time.
Well,
where will parking be for the event?
So the parking will still, where the front part of Ally Village, that will still be available. Ally Outdoors, all of that parking.
Okay.
And then the back side, like behind Cork and Pig and Cowboy Prime, all of that parking. And then you also have the streets. Okay. But as always, we'll always, recommend people to do Rideshare. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
I wanted to say, so when we were planning a trip with his son to go down to Marfa Alpine, I immediately got on the Scout Guide West Texas website. I was like, okay, where should we go? Like, what do we need to check out? And then when you said that you used it when you would travel, I'm like, duh.
Yeah.
Why? Like, when we've been going to like Dallas and Houston and stuff, we've not gone.
Yeah, you just keep it in your car.
Well, and you have to realize the people that own these guides are passionate about where they live. Send them a message, they will respond.
Yeah.
And say, what is your favorite restaurant to go to? They will respond within minutes, They did before I was part of the guide, and people contact me all the time from who's your favorite cookie girl to where do I get a haircut, And I want to respond because I want them to not only support my members, but love Midland and Odessa and this whole West Texas region as much as I do.
Nice.
What advice do you have for women out there who might be interested in something like this? Like, what kind of, is there a certain type of background you might want to have? Like,
so women call me all the time from all over the country saying, hey, I've been following you on Instagram. I love what you're doing. I want to bring it to my city. What do you recommend? I first start with saying, if you want this to be a side thing, if you want this to be something casual, you can do that. But don't expect to make much money at all. To make a lot of money, you have to put a lot of effort in it. And so I am very upfront with that, with these girls. Like, no, you're probably going to have to miss out on things that you didn't want to miss out on to build your business, at least in the first few years. But it will pay off, and it will be worth it, or at least it has been for me. I never thought I was good at sales. When I worked for Kendra Scott, they would make you get on the floor at times, and I would never want to pressure someone to buy a pair of earrings. That was just miserable for me. But now I think it's also, I know the benefit the guide brings to businesses, that it's easy to tell people about it. I feel like I'm doing them a service by telling them all the benefits that it brings when you're part of the guide, and how I know it's going to help their businesses. And I want a business to tell me when they don't think it is.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to change what I'm doing so that it is beneficial for them.
And that's, I wanted to ask you about that, right? Because I come from the digital and the advertising world, right? And so when I see a physical book, I'm wondering what types of questions are, anytime a business owner has to, pay for some sort of marketing or advertising, promotion or whatever it is, they feel like they want to mitigate risk, right?
Yeah.
And so, there's some types of business owners that are very like quantitative, and there's others that are qualitative, right? And so like in terms of going like, well, how I'm more quantitative, so I go like, well, how am I going to know for a fact that the ROI is going to be there versus somebody who might be, more qualitative, being like, there's a lot of aspects, there's a lot of benefits to being in this book. One, they're beautiful, right? It's a higher level of, it's almost, it's almost perceived as a luxury, right? And there's cohesiveness, and there's just like brandability and things like that. Like, how do you sort of balance that, or the mindset of various business owners?
Yeah, I had a lot of people ask me those questions, especially the first year. And, with print, it's a little tricky,
right.
We can't really track it as well. We do have QR codes, so we're able to see that now. And but it is amazing how many testimonials I have from my members who were like, it was easy. As soon as that guide launched, it was evident that I was getting new clients. I also have over a 95% return rate. So that, I think, speaks volumes,
Sure.
is the fact that people saw the value in it. And I mean, I've had members say, my numbers were better than I've ever had. I don't know. I can't pinpoint that it was the guide,
right.
but it feels like it was.
Right.
I also had members join this year that said, Claire, I don't need you, but I want you. Like, I don't need to be in this guide. I don't need more business, but I feel like because of the other people in it, I'm missing out because I'm not in it.
And I can see that part for sure. Like, once we saw the guide, it up close, right? And like had it in our hands and things like that. Like, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of business owners that would be like, this is part of a group, or like I want to be a part of that. I want to be associated with, I might not need the business. I might be doing well on my own, but it's still, association speaks volumes.
To me, it's almost
right?
like a yearbook, and that, like, if a business owner like retires or whatever, they're still gonna have this book, and they're still gonna like have it displayed because it's beautiful, and the quality, like, it doesn't fall apart after you flip through it 5 times. Like, it's very well made. So then they'll always have that to be like, I did this. Like, this is my business.
I think it's also a way to show you support West Texas. You're willing to be part of this community and be part of like this club that shows that you're dialed in and you're wanting to give back to West Texas. And I mean, we do these things called member mingles where other business owners get together and they're just for members, and we do like all different things. We've done wine tasting, we've done social media classes that you hosted. We do all different things. We did a putt-putt night, and it's a great night for these business owners because a lot of times you may be super successful, but you're on an island.
Yeah.
And maybe your close friends don't understand what it's like to own a business. And so this is a great opportunity for those business owners to meet other business owners in the community and start creating networking and friendships and things like that.
Nice.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's good for business owners, like you were saying. Like some of your members were like, immediately I saw people coming in, or people were coming in going like, I saw you in the Scout Guide. Like, just ask your customers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what prompted you to come in today if it's your first time, things like that. You'll be surprised how often they'll be, happy to tell you. And then you can kind of get a sense, yes, there might not be a spreadsheet, right? Or a database, right? Some pivot table of like, well, 64 people came in from the Scout Guide and they spent X dollars, and you know what I mean? They can equate it back to that, but it's not always about that, right? Like, the fact of the matter is that posting on social media is free, right? And so there's good and bad to that, right? Yes, I don't have to spend marketing dollars, but likes and comments and shares and even views don't necessarily equate to revenue either.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
There's not a one-to-one. There's just an aspect of like, hey, if I post enough and the content is of quality,
you're on people's minds.
You're on people's minds, right? Exactly, right? And so, I think that's one way to look at it, because there's all different types of marketing channels, and they're just not all going to be that cut and dry, going like, I spent X dollars and I made X dollars directly from that, total 100% attribution. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, you've got to sort of feel it out. But if you never even try to get into the Scout Guide or a channel like that, you won't know.
Yeah. Totally.
Right.
I had one of my members who was a little skeptical, or maybe she wasn't, but she wanted to know, was I getting my return on Scout Guide? And so she made it where anytime someone checked out, you tapped how you found out about the location. And Scout Guide was the number one reason people were coming to her website.
And that's great that that business owner had the wherewithal to do that.
To think about it, yeah.
Right?
It's been great for me to be able to share
Of
that
course,
testimony.
right? Like you get,
I
you
appreciate
get that
it, yeah.
sort
That's
of sense
a good
of like
suggestion for
bringing that to the next person who
Yeah.
might be on the fence, right? Because again, it's not free.
It's not
let's
free.
Let's be
it's a high-end marketing platform.
It is very luxury. It's very high-end, yes.
Are there like different price ranges to it?
There are, depending on your size of spread. So I have shared spreads are kind of businesses I personally invite into the guide. So I handpicked, you can't ask to be on a shared spread. Shared spreads are ones that I see as maybe newer businesses that are not needing a full page. So I have a women-owned business page. And those are all women-owned businesses in our community that do a lot of like the pop-up markets and things like that. But I've had several from last year who were part of that page who now have their own page next year.
Well, that's a testament to they saw the value from
absolutely.
it.
I had a lot of people go from 1 to 2 pages this year. That's one of the reasons the guide is so large is I didn't add a ton of businesses, but a lot of my businesses that were already in the guide went from a share to a 1 or a 1 to a 2 or a 2 to a fold out.
I love the fold out ones.
The fold outs are great.
It's like a nice little surprise.
It is. It's fun. It's fun. It's a good one this year.
Well, maybe our new podcast studio can be in volume 3.
You should. I think that this is a
love that.
need in the community. And I mean, I know Land Studio is doing well. I feel like that there are a lot of podcasts in our area and renting this out makes a lot of sense.
That's what we're trying to do. We're just if you're a local business owner and you're thinking like video. This is not a plug. I mean, I'm just going to cut it out anyway, but this is for you. Just more or less like, hey, the business owners are like, we know that video is valuable for us. It's, but it's hard to come up with ideas all the time like that. Like we're now jumping into this business brand new because it's the gold of those clips.
Yes.
Right. We see it.
Even if it's just like talking head videos. But I have a very important question.
Oh, ask.
Please go for it.
What is one city in the United States that does not have a Scout Guide yet that you think needs one?
I think there's a few, but I'll stay in Texas. I really think Waco needs one.
Okay.
I'm very surprised they don't. There's so many local business there. It's such a cool area. I think that it would be very successful. I have a little sister who's like 25, 26, and I always am telling her, just do it. Just do it. Yeah. I went to Baylor, so my heart is a little Waco.
I mean, listen, if you're out there, you can be the next Chip and Joanna if you want to be, right?
Yeah, you can.
There might be a little competition, but that's fine.
But I think there is a good one.
Those two nobodies, they don't have any money. You know what I mean?
They have no following.
I want to go to that hotel though. They're opening it, I think, this week. It looks cool.
Let's go.
Or
I need
something.
to check that out.
Santa Fe would be another really cool city. There's not one there. That would be a great one. Eventually, I'd love to have 2 guides where I have my Midland, Odessa, which would be Scout Guide West Texas. And then I would open up my second guide where Marfa is, and that would be the Scout Guide Far West Texas.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the future plan is to have 2 guides.
Okay, so that's also a testament to the scalability and let's be real, right? This is your living, right? How well you're doing and the opportunity that the Scout Guide is sort of giving you to multiple areas eventually.
Yeah, I kind of had a little bit of a small West Texas complex when I first started getting into the real world. I thought, oh, I'm a girl. I'm supposed to get married and work at home at the house and take care of the children, which is a wonderful life. All of my sisters and sister-in-laws and mother have done that and are very happy. So for me to be able to build a business and feel like I have hit a level I didn't think I was capable of doing has been so rewarding to me. And I hope that other ladies will be able to get out there and have that same feeling of like, it doesn't matter that I'm a woman and I come from a small town. I can build a business all on my own that is respected by others in the community. And I just never thought I would be able to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely check out thescoutguide.com if you're interested in owning your own territory, your own franchise.
And if you're interested in working for Claire, she's hiring.
Yes, I am.
2
I have
positions?
20 interviews this week.
Oh, wow.
Yes, for the assistant editor role. So I need more photographers, but yes. So I think we're going to find someone. I hope.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah. There were some really good resumes. I'm like, oh, you're too qualified. You don't want to do this. You don't want to,
But talk to them anyway.
Yeah, I am.
of course.
Okay, good.
And then September 14th.
September 14th. Yes, it is going to be so much fun. All the different activities. Luke Casey's is setting up a lounge. Handed Heritage, the new hat company, is going to be branding hats right there. There's a lot going on in that space. I think it's going to be a really fun night.
Claire, we really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you.
And giving us some more insight into the Scout Guide. I think I'd love to talk with you more about, potentially maybe some collaboration in the future.
I think so.
Between Best of Midland and the Scout Guide in terms, you have those beautiful stickers that your members have on their doors that say you're scouted. Just things like that, just be able to showcase on our website businesses that are scouted, or
Yeah,
or just being able
versa.
to cross promote in some ways.
I love what you're
It only
doing.
helps the business owners here, right?
It does. It does.
The more websites, the more social media that you're on, the more video that you're on, it just helps support your business. So yeah, let's definitely talk.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Thanks again for
you.
coming in today, and we'll be at the party.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.